bookworms, and welcome to the Book Up. I'm your host, Verdell Walker, and I'm so excited you're here. Each week, I dive into my latest reads and share my honest, unvarnished opinions, all in 15 minutes or less. So sit back, get cozy, and let me give you the Book Up. Today's book is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. It's a blend of literary Gothic horror and paranormal suspense, published by Berkley, an imprint of Penguin Random House. The print edition is 352 pages, and it's also available as an eBook and an audiobook. Here's the summary. During the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When handsome Don Rodolfo Solorzano proposes, Beatrice ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the security that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again, no matter the cost. But Hacienda San Isidro is not the sanctuary she imagined. When Rodolfo returns to work in the capital, visions and voices invade Beatrice's sleep. The weight of invisible eyes follows her every move. Rodolfo's sister, Juana, scoffs at Beatrice's fears. But why does she refuse to enter the house at night? Why does the cook burn copal incense at the edge of the kitchen and mark the doorway with strange symbols? What really happened to the first Doña Solorzano? Beatrice only knows two things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda, and no one there will save her. Desperate for help, she clings to the young priest, Padre Andres, as an ally. No ordinary priest, Andres will have to rely on his skills as a witch to fight off the malevolent presence haunting the hacienda and protect the woman for whom he feels a powerful, forbidden attraction. But even he might not be enough to battle the darkness. So before we start chatting about the Hacienda, I wanted to quickly circle back to Season 1's TBR Top-Up. So if you'll remember in that episode, I shared 4 books that I was really excited about reading. So I'll start off with The Sirens. And it's a bit of a shocker, bookworms, because I was expecting to love it, and I really didn't. I know. The Sirens disappointed me. I feel really bad saying it, but it did. I thought it was just a rehash of the themes that we got in Wayward, and it just really wasn't handled as well. Once I got through the big reveals at the halfway mark of the book, I just kept reading because I wanted to get the answers. So yeah, just a disappointment. Shocker. 3 out of 5 stars. Luckily, Green Teeth was a much better read. It was everything that I loved in a cozy fantasy. I adored the main character named Jenny Greenteeth, and I really appreciated the found family that she created. The villain was a bit one-dimensional, but even with that, it was still a great read. And I plan to say more about this book in a special episode about cozy fantasy that I have coming up. But for now, I just gave that 5 out of 5 stars. Very good. The Queen's Spade was also a delightful Victorian revenge romp. You know, this book is listed as YA, but I think it's a solid adult crossover too. Ina, the main character, is a bit of a psycho, but she has every reason to be from what the colonizers around her put her through. And her love interest, Rui, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is also a psycho, and they are psycho together. I really enjoyed just following the mayhem that Ina wrought, from burning down her school to ruining the lives of the people who hurt her, you know, Count of Monte Cristo style. That was a solid 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, Remember You Will Die. I'm actually still reading this one. It is interesting. and a little hard to get through at times because while the obituaries are linked, sometimes I have to go back and reread stuff like, hey, I remember that name. Who was that? And so I have to go back a few pages to remind myself what's going on. It's really interesting format, but it takes a little bit of brain power to get through. I'm only about 75% of the way through this book. So when I finish it completely, I will be sure to report back here and let you guys know what my final star rating is. All right, the Hacienda. So Isabel Cañas has quickly become one of my favorite authors, and by the end of this episode, I hope you will understand why. The Hacienda is her debut novel, and I just finished her second book, Vampires of El Norte, which might make an appearance in a future episode. Yes. Let me preface this by saying I'm not normally a horror girly. This book was at my local library, and it was featured in a bookish newsletter that I subscribed to, so I decided to take a chance. And that was a great decision on my part. But this book drew me in from page one. Lush, atmospheric prose. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that I'm a sucker for that. Beatriz and Padre Andres are also fully drawn and fully realized characters. I really sympathize with Beatriz and her desire for a safe place and for security. This book is set in Mexico in the 1800s, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity for a woman to have that outside of marriage, even if she was a member of the upper class like Beatriz. And that tension is also present in her sister-in-law, Juana, who is looked down on by others for working on the hacienda and ordering men around and letting her skin get dark. So yes, there is a ton of colorism in this book too. Beatriz is traumatized by the death of her father, and Cañas does a great job of showcasing her decision-making and her interiority as she grabs this chance at security. Scary rumors be damned. And Padre Andres is a well-written foil to Beatriz. Cañas makes his self-loathing come alive without being too heavy-handed. You really get a sense of his inner conflict. He is torn between his Catholic faith and the indigenous beliefs that he was raised with. Some stories can be really, really heavy-handed with that, but Cañas handles that conflict so deftly. I'm going to say more on that theme in a little bit. I will say that I felt a little weird about a love connection between a married woman and a priest, but Isabel does a good job handling that awkwardness too. Both characters acknowledge how awkward it is, and we just see that on the page, and I was like, all right, we're here. It's awkward, and it's acknowledged. Good. As for the horror bit, there is some blood here. There are chills. But it's not overdone. I wasn't squealing or shutting the book because I couldn't take it. It was very manageable. I feel the need to say this for those of you who are like me, who are really not into blood and gore. You're not going to find that here. You're not going to find any gratuitous violence or bloodshed. So let's talk theme. Yes, this is a ghost story. This is a haunted house story. But those are just vehicles to explore racism and colorism and patriarchy. I'm not into horror for horror's sake. I gravitate towards horror that has something to say about bigger issues and bigger themes. That's when this genre functions at its best, in my opinion. A good example of that is the film Sinners by Ryan Coogler and starring Michael B. Jordan. One of my favorite films ever. And it's a vampire flick on the surface, but like the Hacienda, it has got something to say. Side note, if you have not seen Sinners, remedy that immediately. It's available on HBO Max. So back to the tension between faith and traditional belief that I hit upon with Andres. That is also a key theme here. I saw so many parallels in Andres' tug of war between Catholicism and his indigenous belief, and devout Southern Baptist and root work or hoodoo. You know, my mom and a lot of my elders are devout, church-going Southern Baptists. They are church ladies. They are church folks, right? but they also really believe in root work, which is like hoodoo or voodoo. That, for African Americans in the South is that form of indigenous spirituality. And I always just found that to be just such an interesting juxtaposition. Root work also plays a role in Sinners too. Like, I know you may be tired of me talking about that film, but I love it, but I need everyone to go see it. Another parallel that arose for me in this book is that the Hacienda, the haunted house, reminded me so much of plantations in the South. The evil that is stored in the Hacienda, centuries of Sorlezanos reigning over this place, and the misery of the people who served them made me think about plantations. So for me and many other ADOS, ADOS, American descendants of slavery, plantations are not these beautiful sites of lovely flowers and architectures and wedding places. They are places of immense suffering and inhumanity. No matter how much people want to paper over that, like, plantations are sites of evil. They are sites of mourning, and people should not be getting married there. It would be like having your wedding at Auschwitz. I firmly believe that. And I know this book is about Mexican history and culture, but the parallels here were so striking. And it's a key reason why this book resonated so strongly for me. If you can't tell, I love this book. My final rating for the Hacienda is 5 out of 5 stars. I recommend this to anyone who is looking for a book that will thrill and chill them, but will also make them think, that also has something very worthwhile to say. And if you like this book, or if this sounds like something you'll like, I think you will also love the work of another favorite author of mine, Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I recommend starting with Mexican Gothic, which really put me in the mind of Hacienda, and also her book, The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. Once again, Isabel is now an auto-buy author for me. I just finished Vampires of El Norte, which is her second novel, 5 out of 5 stars. Some folks fall flat on their face in their sophomore novel, Cough, the Siren's Cough, but Miss Cañas did not. It was another home run. Her third novel, The Possession of Alba Díaz, is due out on August the 19th, 2025, and you can bet I will be reading that one. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you want to read today's book, I've included shoppable links in the episode description. I'll earn a commission if you make a purchase. Thanks for supporting the show that way. I'd also love to hear from you. Leave me a rating or a review, and if you have book recommendations, drop them in the comments on my latest post over on Instagram at @thebookuppod. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next time on The Book Up.